So Bernadette and I met through our children both being at the same school. It struck me actually that quite a few people that I've talked about today are through that. And yeah, sometimes that sort of community piece starts, where where you sort of least expect it. So Bernadette is a coach and has actually provided me with some career coaching a couple of years back. So I know she's awesome. And Bernadette has held a number of really, really senior roles and still does across people and culture, or HR for to call it its old school name, where Bernadette coaches leaders and executives and is, as I said, they recently relocated. I say recently, I think about 18 months ago now, relocated to Sydney, where Bernadette's family is. And Bernadette founded a couple of companies. So Roseby Consulting, which is still ongoing today. Previously, the Wellbeing Games, which she worked with corporates in. And then most recently, I think it was March 23, has co-founded something called the Moxie Menopause app, which is a solution to support, educate, and coach women through their own menopause journey. So that's what we're going to hear about from Bernadette today. Now, I know, bless her, that obviously in Sydney it's the end of her day and she was at work. So we had to try and get it so it was not an awful time for her time zone wise. But obviously she does have a day job. So I imagine she is just frantically trying to get back and logged on. I guess as we then move into this session, for me, it's super, I guess, relevant. So I'm 43, so I'm not yet in that 45 to 54 age bracket that we talked about. However, and without sharing too much, although let's face it, I always tend to be a bit of an oversharer. I would say that I probably am experiencing some of the perimenopausal symptoms. So my husband will be like, "Oh my God, why this?" But the more we normalize this stuff. So night sweats for me are the biggest. Now, at one point, this was about a year ago, it was so awful, shall we say, and this is from a person that even when I run or do exercise, I don't really sweat very much. So I was like, oh my goodness, something is really wrong. So, I went and had some blood tests and all those sorts of things at the GP. And yeah, there was nothing underlying. Touch wood, touch wood. But yes, given the age that I am, they were like, probably is something like that linked to perimenopause. I mean, for me, that's probably the main one at the moment. I think forgetfulness and brain fog. I mean, I feel like I just have that normally. Anyway, a bit. So, but what fascinates me as well is that there are just so many symptoms, and that everybody experiences it differently. And I think some people go through their journey having, almost experiencing nothing, and then other people experience a lot. I think it's brilliant that it's being spoken about so much more now than I'm just checking in that if Bernadette's okay. Um, so much more now than it was. If I think about my, I guess, sort of maternal line, my mum, oh, hopefully you won't mind me saying mum, but had a hysterectomy. So actually, um, it was a little bit different in terms of how she experienced the menopause. And then my granny had electric shock treatment. Now, that was, I think, before sort of menopausal stages, it was what we would now. She clearly had a form of postnatal depression, which obviously wasn't really talked about or treated in the way that we would treat it today. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think she's not with us anymore. And but I just think in reality, in terms of us as a human race, that's not that long ago. And to think, oh my goodness, like you're struggling with your mental health. Oh, I know, let's strap you up and give you electric shock. I mean, you can't, yeah, I can't even begin to imagine. Um, but yes, I think perimenopause, for example, I am embarrassed to say that as a phrase, I don't think even, or a term rather, it's not a phrase, I hadn't even come across that until probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was certainly a mum, and as I say, I've got my eldest is 9 and my youngest is 6. So I do hope that Bernadette is able to join us. Um, this is where tech can be our friend and it can be our foe. I should probably just stop talking now. Oh, I can see her coming in. Right, asked to unmute. Hi, Bernadette.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I was on like another link that you had sent me, so I'm really
Oh,
sorry.
don't worry at all. Don't worry at all. Yes, and you're here. You're here. So don't say sorry at all. It's so good to see you.
And you as well. This is awesome. And yeah, so it's my night time. I've had to rush back from my son's Christmas concert. And he sung some version of the Australian Jingle Bells, which I wasn't sure what I should be expecting from that. But he and his other English friend were flipping burgers on a Barbie as part of their little act in this Christmas concert, which was
Oh,
interesting.
oh, I love. Well, no, while I was waiting for you to join, I was explaining, well, I'd already said that obviously you're joining us from Sydney, which is very exciting, but also that bless you, that you'd had, a full day's work. It's the end of your day.
We had a work
Thank
Christmas
you so, so much.
party. I had to
Did you?
rush to get to my son's Christmas concert, and then it was still going only about 20 minutes ago. I was like, I've got to
Oh,
go home. Like, so I quickly rushed to get home. And then I've been sat here like, I'm ready. And I'm so
oh,
sorry.
bless you. Oh, yes. I apologies. I thought I had well, anyway, we're here now. We're both here and I can see yeah, you're all live on YouTube as well, so that's great. So I will then sort of fire off with some of the questions that I've and hopefully you've seen those, but if you haven't, they're nothing
I have,
horrible,
yeah.
I promise. So in the sort of while I was waiting, I did just share how we first met through again good old school network, and actually that you had donated some coaching through the school's sort of silent auction, hadn't you? And
Correct. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be the recipient of some of those. So I've experienced, your coaching, and I was talking about, I guess you've all worked in and still do in senior people and culture roles, but obviously you have Rosebery Consulting, you've had the Wellbeing Games, you're now co-founder of Moxie Menopause app. But tell me, I guess, or tell anyone that's listening now or after Bernadette, just a little bit about yourself and what's brought you to where you are now.
Um, yeah, so I guess I studied HR, so it was one of those things that I went into, but my dad's an employment lawyer, so there was a little bit of background there anyway. And then as I developed into more senior HR roles, and I'm definitely a generalist, I started really thinking about why, as organizations, we don't look at our employees like we do elite athletes. We're doing all this high performance stuff, so, thinking about 10, 15 years ago. So why are we not doing anything to be really focusing on our employees and their holistic sense of self. And so went and studied coaching, and obviously I had been coaching different people, and I had some like basic qualifications in coaching, just that I'd been gifted as part of my training in different organizations. Um, and I then went on and qualified as a coach, but also as a team coach, and studied nutrition because I just thought we need to do something more, especially at that exec level when you've got these well-being initiatives within an organization, but the execs never take part. It's always, oh, I'm too busy, or we've got this for them. And actually, I'm not sure they ever truly bought into well-being as a concept. So I really wanted to do something that was far more focused around that exact level. And it was during that kind of work that I was doing that I founded Rosby, because I wanted to do something which was far more around culture, behaviors, how we're driving that really kind of elite performance mentality. But how do you then make sure you're looking after yourself, that you can be your best at work? And what is that kind of duty of care? And how do you then align that with the strategy of an organization, with purpose, with values, etc.? So, it evolved a lot. And it was through that I started thinking more and more about, I was working with very senior people within different organizations. And then COVID hit, and they just felt so disconnected to their teams, and they were really struggling with, how do I connect with my team? I'm struggling myself. How do I then get my team to like come together?
Mm.
So I developed the Wellbeing Games, which was all about connection and very much about how do we connect as human beings, and how can we support each other at a very human level and be far more human centered around our relationships that we have with each other at work, but that really, really supports engagement. It supports performance at work. And bringing all of my other training into it as well, which is around nutrition, around just general well-being. Um, I I really felt very strongly about that connection point and the importance of having human connections at work, which are far deeper than just surface level conversations, but very much around understanding, being compassionate, being kind, and very much being centered around us as human beings. So, there's a lot to be said about broadening that into DEI as well, but I truly believe that it's not just about DEI, it's actually about us being human beings at work and treating each other as humans. So yeah, I was working on like Rosby in terms of the consulting side. I was working on the Wellbeing Games, and that both of those were going really well because I was having the ability to do like this kind of fun stuff with the Wellbeing Games and seeing that the impact that was having on teams, but also then the consulting side, really making a difference within organizations, where you're looking at culture and changing culture and helping people to realize what I'm doing is connected, again, this whole connection piece, with what my organization wants to be doing and where they want to be growing and the products that we're developing or the services that we're offering and how I'm connected to that as an individual. So, I then decided that I was coaching a lot of women, and I thought there's something going on here. A lot of women feeling like they're not necessarily connected to their workplace. They felt like they were struggling with themselves and with their ability to continue to carry on. And I thought there's something like I'm personally being impacted by my hormonal changes. Something's not quite right for me. So I started looking a lot into menopause, and it did become a really hot topic in the UK, maybe about 6 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago. Davina McCall, started doing a lot around what's going on for women, why, there was a huge push at the time. And it was then that terms like perimenopause were becoming a lot more popular. So I noticed, Kim, you asked me a question when you sent me out the list, like, is it weird that perimenopause wasn't really a word that we even knew about until recently? And you're right, it's a very recent word. So it's not even 10 years old, I don't think. So it
It
literally
wasn't just me. I was
translates.
like, oh, I'd never heard.
No, No, honestly, like I remember, I was having my own hormonal issues, and I had this letter from my gynae, and it just said to my GP because I'd been
Yeah.
referred, and it just said Bernadette is perimenopausal, and I was like, well, what does that even mean? You didn't tell me that. What does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Googling.
I well, right. And I was like, I don't get this. Like she told me all about my hormone levels and my FSH is this, and like your estrogen is this, and you're only in your 30s, and oh, this is very young and blah, blah, blah. Let's just take this. And I was like, okay, what? And I was just very fortunate that I have this curious mind that I was then able to go and investigate and really try and understand what is perimenopause? What does this mean? And then I started thinking about all these women, very senior women who I'd been coaching, who were sort of saying, I'm feeling like this and I feel like this. And like even my friends who a couple of them are a number of years older than me. And they were like really, really struggling with their mental health, like significantly struggling with their mental health. And they'd been diagnosed, they had been prescribed antidepressants and things. And I just kept digging and digging. And I guess it's helped me to understand a lot more about women in the workplace, number one, and number two, a hormonal journey of women and all of the changes that we didn't know about and the world still doesn't know about. And there's so much untapped information out there that like we're still trying to understand what does go on for women during this time in their lives. Um, and I guess I was just so curious about it that I wanted to find out more. And it's all connected, so bear with me a little bit. I realize I've just been talking
No,
at
no,
you.
no, no. Keep going.
So I then started talking to someone about the Wellbeing Games, and he's a CTO who I've known for a number of years. And I said to him, "Oh, I'd love you to come and join me as a CTO for the Wellbeing Games." And he said, "Look, companies are just not investing in well-being. Like, I just hate to break it to you, but COVID's over now. No one really gives a shit. And we like they've bought things in-house, but it's become so much of a tokenistic and tick box exercise
Mm,
that it's another resilience program or it's another this or it's another that." And he said, "Look, let's just be honest. You're doing a lot in the menopause space. I think you're onto something." And so he said, I'd love to help you develop a product that takes all of that information that you've got from the Wellbeing Games that is far more dedicated to women.
mm,
And I was like, oh, okay. And of
mm.
course, at the time, I then, started looking into all of this and thought, well, the Wellbeing Games, the concept of the Wellbeing Games is 5 wellbeing activities every single day. And so you do this for 10 days. It's a sprint. So one is a nutrition challenge, one is a movement challenge, one is sleep, one is mindfulness, and one is connection. And so taking all of that information, I was thinking, well, yeah, I mean, as women, we need to really adjust our nutrition at different stages of our lives. And depending on our age, depends on what we actually need to nourish our bodies with. And physically, we need to be doing totally different things in our 30s and 40s than we did even in our 40s from our 30s, but than we did in our 20s. So, oh my gosh, there is so much here that I could start thinking about. Sleep. Oh my God, it's completely different in your perimenopausal and menopausal stages than prior to that. Mental health is significantly different. All these things, I was like, actually, there's something here.
Yeah,
Um,
masses.
and so I then took a lot of the concepts around it and specifically targeted them within like a menopause for menopausal women. So that was like the first step of building an app. But actually, the more that we looked into it, the more research I was doing with women around what would be helpful, what's missing in the market. There's so much to be said around. There's such a lack of information for women about treatment options
Mm,
and understanding your own hormonal journey. So we have developed a personalized menopause app, which is using at the moment predictive analysis to understand where you are in your hormonal journey, like because we all have different hormonal phases throughout a menstrual cycle. When you then go through perimenopause and menopause, that's very much interrupted. So understanding what's going on in your hormones for you personally to then start predict, well, what can you do to manage those before they become too
So it's
unmanageable?
proactive.
Yeah, so it's proactively looking after your well-being, so having those well-being tips, and then using a lot of that data to say, okay, now let's look at, now you're managing some of this yourself, and obviously some of it you absolutely cannot manage by yourself. What else are you taking? So then understanding from that person who's using it, with her permission, to understand, well, what are the different things that you're doing that are helping with your sleep? So it could be you are on HRT, it could be that you're taking supplements, it could be that you're having therapy. Like, what are those other things that are helpful for you? And let's understand you to then help millions of other women around the world with their different symptoms that they have. And let's really, really define how we can help women throughout their menopausal journey that is personal to them. So it's essentially live research. So that's Moxie, which I've now developed. And it's still being developed, so it's not there yet. But that's where we're at the moment. And we are looking for investment. So if there's anyone out there who is keen to invest in a femtech product, it is going to be huge, and it is all around data. So there's a load of data that we're able to capture. We've got hundreds of users already throughout the world. And yeah, it's really, really exciting to say we are genuinely doing something that will help women and have a huge impact on women globally.
Thank you, Bernadette. And I think, I mean, I've got the app and I have to, put my hand up and be like, oh my goodness, I downloaded it probably when you first told me about it. And then I was like, oh, I should go back to that. So I was having a little play the other day. And as you say, there's still development behind the scenes, but already there's so much. And I guess as an end user, I probably won't explain this very well, but yes, I could go in and put obviously my basic sort of data in, but then yeah, there's a place where I can track what's happening in my cycle, how my mood is on that day, any symptoms I'm experiencing. I was sharing with our live streamers before you joined that I have the pleasure of night sweats and have done for a couple of years now. And as someone that doesn't sweat, like I ran the London Marathon and I wasn't even that sweaty. Like it's
Oh,
weird.
don't
As a
stop
body,
it.
everyone's like, oh God, shut up, Kim. Okay, fine. Maybe, I obviously did sweat, but I'm not a sweaty person. Do you know what I mean? Whereas and again, you can imagine Ralph would be like, oh my God, I'll wake up and I have to change and like but like it's drenched and you're like, oh, what is going, like, am I dying?
Yeah.
All this sort of thing. But also then so you put in bits and then it will point you towards, oh look, here's an article that I think would be really useful for you, or here's some tips, and I love the way as well that it's very holistic in terms of, like, you talk about the sleep, nutrition, the mental health, and also that proactivity piece, I think, because it, it is still, as you say, so misunderstood. And I guess perhaps part of that is because you go to a GP, they are a general practitioner, and actually every woman's journey is different. They weren't educated on sort of the ins and outs of it because
No.
it
So
hasn't been known.
yeah, if we
So
think
this is
just generally
proactive.
about the statistics, like GPs have had 2 hours of medical training in menopause. Women
No,
spend 30% of their lives in menopause, right?
probably going to
So,
drop the live stream numbers now.
sorry, I will, I can stop talking
Wow.
about that. But that
No, no,
is
no, no,
like,
no. We need to hear it.
we like the budgets that are allocated to menopause is
Mm,
something like 0.01% of a global of like a national budget for the
wow.
women's health budget. So women's health gets allocated a set amount, and then menopause is allocated an amount within that, which is less than 1%. which, if you think about the fact that women spend 30% of their lives in menopause, is outrageous.
Wow.
Like there, and I'm not saying that we should take away from pregnancy because that, that in itself is huge, but I think there's been so much focus on pregnancy for women, and as there should be, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there shouldn't be,
Mm.
but until last year, like this is just another kind of fact, but until last year, period products didn't even use period blood to test.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're just that lovely old blue dye
Yeah,
you see in the
right.
adverts.
Yeah. So they didn't actually really
Right.
know
Yeah. The
how
impact of those
how
products.
effective they were
Yeah.
using
Often not.
proper like
Mm,
data, I guess, or
mm,
resources. Yeah.
mm.
Like women's health has been so underinvested in for years because there were lots of studies that were done in the 60s that caused issues. So there was this huge push medically to stop researching on women. Um, every single, and also white men were the only subjects that were used for any sort of testing, unless it was something they thought was very dangerous. And then, of course, there was other men,
God in the woman.
right? So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. So all of like heart attacks, women are twice as likely to have cardiac issues than men. Yet we only hear about, the left side pain as a heart attack. Women don't present with pain, chest pain when they're having a heart attack. Their
Wow.
symptoms are far more like a cold.
Oh, wow. That's quite
Yeah.
scary.
Right. So there's so many
Yeah.
things that we are
Yeah.
so unaware of.
Yeah.
Um, that I just don't understand why there's not more money and more
Mm,
funding going into
mm.
this, which is why we've developed Moxie. Is it just one of those other reasons that really support having something where we're able to really understand what is going on for women, really capturing that data and having this very live clinical like knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
which is
also the fact, like you said, I think as well that it's there's something really I don't know what the word is, but that you're doing it like you say, you've got at the moment hundreds and obviously it will be thousands, but globally, and again from I guess, yeah, different as well, different backgrounds, different, cultures, different ethnicities, and all, everything in sort of the mix. So I think as well, what I just wanted to I guess make a connection to Bernadette is obviously that this 15 for kindness is Stream for Mind, mental health, which it's not in Australia, is it? It's a UK mental health
that's right. Yeah,
charity. So anyone listening in Oz, that's what it is. But the reason for the 15 hours is that one in 15 will attempt suicide across the course of their life, which I found staggering. Um, but on top of that, women between the ages of 45 and 54 are more likely have. There's been a 6% increase across the last 2 decades, and that's of women actually committing
mm,
suicide, so not just the
mm,
attempted. And I mean, as I sort of share that, and I guess knowing what you know about perimenopause and menopause. So am I right in thinking that that
they're
is a key
connected.
prime window?
Yeah, so our hormones play a huge role in our serotonin levels. They play a huge role in other elements. So estrogen impacts over 400 receptors in your body. And with the changes in estrogen, it's having a significant impact on our mental health. You're not getting as much sleep. So emotionally, you're not as resilient as you might be. It does change our brain. So there's a brilliant doctor in the US, Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's doing brain studies. And she is predominantly looking at dementia. However, she has found so many links between the changes of your brain during pregnancy and perimenopause. So puberty,
Mhm.
pregnancy,
Right.
perimenopause. So we're seeing that there's just so many changes going on in the neuroplasticity, but also in just the chemicals in your brain. And because of the hormonal changes, it's really having a significant impact then on your mental and your cognitive ability, which then kind of starts to bring on other issues that might flare up that you might have been predisposed to anyway.
Mm.
So there is a higher incidence of people who had like trauma in their younger years, or they might have suffered with anxiety and depression when they were younger. It does come out again during
That's right.
perimenopause.
Okay.
So that's one element. Um, NICE, so the UK NICE guidelines, which
Yeah.
inform the NHS, they have guidelines which are any woman that over the age of 45 that presents with anxiety or depression should immediately, if suitable, be offered HRT. So they know there's a massive
Right.
correlation
Yeah.
between hormone changes
Yeah.
and mental health issues.
Yeah.
Um, like I can go on with some more anecdotal information that has been written down, but maybe not necessarily studied, just around just how women, their sense of self during this time. And it's so difficult when you are going through all these changes to one, acknowledge that you are perimenopausal. And don't forget, like I bet all of us at some point have been dismissed by a doctor. Oh, you're too young, or you're too this. Oh, it's like uh, you're not having any period changes. Oh, it's not, you're not
Mm.
menopausal.
Mm.
Or oh, this isn't happening. Oh, you're not menopausal. There are over 60 now formally recognized symptoms of
Wow.
perimenopause. So, like, can you imagine for years? Like, one of them is anxiety with driving or driving at
Wow.
nighttime. Yeah. So it like
Okay.
most people don't know these things, but you suddenly start to feel really anxious about driving, or you might be having more heart palpitations because there is such a huge correlation between cardiovascular system and estrogen. Um, I like if you start to suddenly feel like that and you don't understand it, you've got nobody to talk to about it. You might be in an environment where people don't open up. And,
Mm.
let's face it, the British culture is far more about, sorry, I'm just getting a call in there. The British culture is far more reserved and not necessarily
Yeah.
open to have conversations about things. So, if you're in a culture where you don't speak up about something, then who do you talk to about how you're feeling, what's
Uh,
going on for you? Suddenly, like, where do you turn to for help? Your doctor's ignoring you. You're not getting any help. You're like, maybe you're losing your hair. Like, it feels sometimes like brain fog is a real thing. It's so significant for some women. They think they're starting to get dementia. That then has an impact on how they feel about themselves. Like, all of these things
yeah.
happening.
And then confidence spirals and
Exactly right. And I just think like this is part of us being able to openly talk about it. Couple that with like maybe you are in a relationship and you're like you just cannot stand your partner anymore. Like that, there's something there also about relationship breakdown and like it might be that you've got elderly parents or parents who are aging and suddenly like one of them might die and that grief just is like
mm,
unbearable because of where
mm,
you are in your perimenopausal or menopausal journey.
yeah.
And I just think that there are lots of things that we don't necessarily appreciate about the significant impact of our hormones on our resilience, on our mental health, and just on our sense of self.
Mm, yeah. Wow. It's I mean, there's some, yeah, they say every day is a school day, don't they? And I'm like, whoa, I definitely need to take notes. But I think, the fact that I just that's going to stick with me that we spend 30% of our lifetime in this phase. I knew that there were a number of symptoms, but actually you said so there's, I guess it's growing, but at the moment there's
Yeah.
60 recognized
Yeah.
symptoms. And I think that in itself is yeah, it sort of is almost that's almost tricky, isn't it? Because it's not that, oh, okay, so if you've got a chest infection or something, oh, right, okay, this, you'll have this and you'll have that. And oh, yeah, I had that. And this is how, whereas everyone can experience it differently. But I think this is why, I'm so happy to have you as part of this day, Bernadette, because I think it's, even if we can get to one person, even if it's not that they're experiencing that, gives them a bit more knowledge to then spot in others. Because I think I shared before you joined us that my gran, so my mum's mum, had electric shock treatment. Now, I think that was more in after birth, so that clearly she had a form of postnatal depression. Um, but I mean, and she, yeah, I mean, it's like I can look back now and feel real empathy and compassion for her. But when I was growing up, when I'd see it, she just was always always like sit in a chair and just I didn't really used to like going there, and she always went for
Mm,
naps and she always had a headache and all of those sorts of things. But actually it's yeah, we just didn't really understand. And certainly there was, whereas now we can talk about, these things, and the more people that know you are going through significant changes. So it's okay to feel crap,
mm,
scared, all of the different things. But also there is a lot of like you say, there's whether it's things that you control yourself, so like, the nutrition, the mindfulness, sleep, all of those things that we can do, but also then, exploring. I know there was obviously um some years back now. I mean, we were obviously a lot younger, but the whole like, oh no, HRT, is
mm.
dangerous and all those sorts of things that sort of seem to stick a while. But actually
Yeah, but
there's,
do you know what that
again,
was?
that's evolved. And actually I know, some people that are like, wow, literally life changing. And, it's the best thing that's for me and needed. In the
Mm.
same way we may with anxiety medication or depression or whatever it is.
So, interestingly, that HRT study was done on postmenopausal women who had underlying health issues. And they then developed cancer, a couple of them. I honestly, sorry, I should have looked up the statistics before talking about this, and I'm
No,
probably
not at
wrong with
all.
my numbers, but I like that was an inconclusive study which has now been overruled and found to be
Right.
incorrect. But for 20 years, women were essentially told, no, you shouldn't be taking
Don't
HRT,
have
it
it.
causes cancer. Now,
Yeah.
that's not to say that people who have a predisposition to cancer, especially breast cancers, that it is safe, because there are still studies out there to say it's actually not safe for some women. So I'm not saying every woman should be
No.
given it, but
Hmm.
it certainly isn't as bad as what it had been claimed to be, and that no one should be
Yeah.
taking it, because for the millions of women who do take it, it is hugely beneficial. And like as I said to you, estrogen is responsible for over 400 different receptors in our body. And if we then like can improve our longevity, but also our quality of life as we age,
Yes.
then that's got to be a consideration, right?
Yes.
There are so many studies about the impact of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, and how beneficial they can be for so many women. So,
Mm.
there's something to be said about these studies that were like not correct, and they did
Yeah.
not have,
Yeah.
the
And I think
right
at the time it
data.
was sort of yeah, tabloid
Oh, totally.
sensationalization
Yeah. Yeah.
and all of those things. So okay, yes, and also it goes without saying that yeah, Bernadette or I are not advising one way or another on that. And it's
No,
about
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, understanding your own journey and going and speaking and being curious and all of those sorts of things
Yeah.
for what's going on for you. Um
Can I just say, Kim, as well, like men go through
oh yes,
changes, hormonal
yeah, talk,
changes.
yeah, let's talk about
And I think I'm pretty sure you've got a speaker talking about men's health later, so I don't want to steal their
yes.
thunder at all. Um, But men, so their testosterone levels start to decrease anytime from their 30s. And obviously, like women, it can happen at different times in different stages and at different speeds. So theirs is far more gradual than women's, which is why we don't necessarily talk about it. But testosterone plays a major part for men in their energy levels, in their ability to kind of get up in the morning. It has an impact on their physical health. So a lot of men start to gain weight as they reduce their testosterone levels. Hair thinning, baldness, lots of things that are similar to women. Sweat can also be like a huge factor as well. So it's fair during that time for men, we're also seeing increases in mental health issues and increases in suicide rates. So I think that it should not be unspoken about.
Mm,
Men have their own version, and people do call it male menopause, andropause, and they do have different meanings. So I don't necessarily want to use those terms, but it's important to understand that that is also going on for men. And we
yes,
need to start talking about that a lot more than we're
yes.
currently talking about, because there is a huge correlation between that dip in testosterone. You know, we used to refer to grumpy old men, and you can see that level of testosterone
Hmm.
and the impact that that has. And like, I know for women who take testosterone, and it's a female version, so it
Hmm.
plays a different role for women,
Yeah.
but not that dissimilar to what it does for men. But however, we have estrogen and progesterone as well, and they don't. Um, that testosterone in women has so so many benefits for women who have testosterone. So, you know, there's something to be said that we're not looking at the
Mm,
holistic element of both men and women and those hormonal
yeah.
changes that they're having. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's something else that I do think that we need to understand and recognize, and how that then impacts on mental health and on um, for men especially
Yeah.
suicide rates, because we know that that's like at an
Yes.
increased level at that age group too.
Yes. 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 And I think that's something actually that I can, yeah, so I've got yeah, a guy called Andrew coming in later today, and I imagine it'll probably, because we're talking about his journey, will probably come up, but I can definitely reference that. I'm just having a look down at my notes, Bernadette, in case there's anything specific that I make want to make sure that we don't um skip. So I guess there was a couple actually. So the first is, given that this is as far as possible, I'm keen for speakers throughout the day to be able to either educate or remind us of how we can, show kindness, to ourselves, with a view that, if we were all a bit kinder to ourselves, then perhaps, there would be a positive impact on the suicide rates. For I guess, in terms of your like expertise that we've been talking about today, but also if it's more useful to think about your broader, HR and things background, what I guess practical things would you say we could be doing to, to more proactively support ourselves?
Mm. So this is where I really, really love to bring in my coaching knowledge and experience. And I think there's something to be said about doing something little every day for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, it is I often will ask myself a question like, what do I need today to like for myself? What am I going to do today to make myself feel good? And it might be like have an extra half an hour in bed. It might be I'm going to get myself up and call like a friend. It might be I'm going to get up earlier and journal. It might be, you know what, I just need to sit. Sorry, my friend from the UK is clearly not listening to this because she's calling me.
How
Uh,
rude, just be like, hello,
Rude. I
YouTube.
know. I'm going to record this bit and send it to her.
Yes.
Um, I think that there's something really important about just doing one little thing just for yourself each day, whether it's like, it could be big. It could be like I'm going to get up earlier and go for like a 20K run or something like that. Um, but just one little thing just for you each day. And I think that it could, it's thinking about it ahead of time as well. So it could be, do you know what? I'm feeling really tired. I'm going to go to bed 10 minutes earlier. That's so
Yeah,
simple to do, right?
yeah.
But just one thing that I'm committed to do that's going to make me feel good today.
Mm,
And what is that? What's that one thing that I'm going to do for
mm.
myself?
I love that. I love that. And I think because sometimes we do think about self-kindness as like, oh, I need to go and relax in a bubble bath for an hour or something, or I need to go for a spa day. Like, yes, all of those things can be nice, but I did an article recently about, sort of micro moments of self-kindness. And yeah, exactly like that. You said, call a friend or another that I love to do, and particularly if I'm feeling a bit of a meh, is put on like one of my favorite songs and just dance around the kitchen and
Hmm.
obviously you get sort of the endorphins and things as well, don't you? But I like that in terms you can be more um planful in terms of, okay, well, actually looking out across the week, even, right, I'm gonna take a walk on this time, or I'm gonna, yeah, go and see if a friend wants to have coffee, or like you say, just be. You may have seen, I feel like I've just been vomiting on social media even more than normal recently. And yesterday I woke up and I did a bit of a tech test that didn't go so well. Touch wood, it seems to be so far this morning. But I sort of then was just like, and then I checked the donation page and had some very generous things coming out. So I'd got all emotional and, oh my goodness. And then the whole, oh my God, what do you think you're doing? You can't do this. And I just took myself and I sat in a cafe. I got a cup of tea and I just sat. Um, yeah, I probably just sat for about 15 minutes. I even had a little tear. And then, yeah, I answered some bits on Instagram and stuff. And then I came out and I was like, can do this. Whereas not that long ago, or when you first coached me years ago, hello, I haven't got time to do that. I'm like live streaming tomorrow for 15 hours, and the stuff is on at home. I've got washing the machine that's been there probably over 24 hours, and I haven't got time. Whereas it's that, sometimes you do just need to press pause, don't you? And
Yeah,
show
well,
yourself
thank you for
kindness
sharing
that way.
that with us, Kim, because that's you showing vulnerability. So I really appreciate the fact that you shared that. And I definitely think that's it. You do have to take that time out and take a step back sometimes to realize, what do I need to be kind to myself today?
Yeah,
Like, what is that one thing that I can do that is self-kindness today? And
yeah,
so much of us is like judgy of ourselves, and like that inner voice is mostly an inner critic rather than an inner coach. And often it's about just that little reminder to ourselves that we are okay and we can do this.
hmm,
And what do I need? I actually just need a micro break. Like I just need five
yeah,
minutes to myself to
yeah,
just have that little break.
yeah,
And, that's really important.
yeah. No, it is, isn't it? And I think it can be all too easy to get caught up in, and I can't, I'm too busy. And that just
Yeah.
sort of piles on and exacerbates it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
So,
I'm sure I've shown you this one before, but it's one of those, I think it was David Rock or someone from that kind of ilk
yeah,
um around neuroscience.
yeah,
And it's an image of like choosing where you focus. And often like I get my coachees to stand up and I'm like, just look at your feet. And if you look at your feet, you can only see your feet. But actually, when you stand up and look out, you've got a far greater perspective on things. And that is you being more visionary. So sometimes we do like need to be in the detail of stuff, but not
mm,
always, and not that often, to be honest. When we stand and take that time to look out and up, we gain so much more perspective. So sometimes it is just a very, very simple reminder,
yeah.
where am I choosing to focus right now?
Where am I
Like,
choosing to focus right now? Yeah,
yeah. So if we can take that time to go, okay, even if it is just a minute, like the fact that you said 15
yeah.
minutes, I was like, wow, that is
I know.
like
I was like, do you know what? This-
good for you.
Exactly. Was like, I'm actually luxuriating in this. I'm not just like,
Yeah.
fixing a cup of tea,
You
getting
had
it. It
your
was
1 hour bath
good
in that
reset.
time. Like, yeah,
Yeah, you know.
extra long
I mean,
shower time.
tomorrow I might have like a 15-hour bath. We'll see. I mean, I'd be like a prune, but but no, I love that, Bernadette. And actually, I was asking so Faye, who I had on just before you, doing sort of the facial massage, and I asked how she shows herself kindness, and she talked about getting out and in nature. And I think a lot of for people it's about getting out in nature, isn't it? And I guess probably a lot of that is because we spend so much of our life, and I mean particularly in the run up to this, I've been walking around and I'm like looking and I'm like doing a story at the same time, and like, oh, trying to look up when I cross a road or whatever. But actually when you just go, and it sounds so cheesy, but you look at the sky and you look at the trees and you just notice what's around you. There's something
Mm.
grounding, isn't there?
Oh, do you know what, Kim? I cannot help myself but share this. And please, like, like I am gloating in this one. But last Friday, I dropped my son off at school, and where he's at school is not that far from our closest beach. So I walked him to school, and then I ran down to the beach, ran along the beach, and it was 29 degrees at 9 in the morning. Like
Oh,
I am a sweater. So when you said you don't sweat, I was like,
you're like,
oh, we can't be friends anymore. But I was like sweating like a pig. They're really not nice. And I did my 5Ks, and I'd taken my swimmers with me,
"Mm,
and I dove into that water, but only for a
oh,
minute. And then I walked back out, and I walked home. I just put my running stuff just back over
yeah,
the top of me, and I walked home sopping wet, and I loved it. And I was just like, that was the
that's
best.
amazing.
Like it took 2 seconds for me to jump in and jump
Yeah,
out. And
yeah,
I haven't been ocean swimming for a while. I don't know why. I live near the beach, but I just hadn't. And it was the
yeah,
nicest way to start my Friday morning. Like
yeah.
I love running anyway, but going into the water and being like just having that ocean on your like it was
Mhm.
amazing. I loved it.
Okay, well, again, now we can't then be friends my way as well, because you're just talking about like, oh, I went for a run on the beach and then see my 29 degrees. I'm like, on Twickenham High Street, freezing with my scarf, and
Come and
well, anyway.
visit. Come for a run and a swim.
I know. Oh, yes, yes. I need to. Well, if anyone wants to, funding, maybe kind of success, and Moxie can do some, joint thing. And if you want to fly me over to Australia, then I
Yeah.
am fine with that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm conscious of time and your time, and also my next speaker, but also I can hear there's some actually the life in the building now. So I'm excited because the cafe's open and I'm going to get my first coffee of the day. I have had two teas.
Yeah.
But so I guess for those keen to I guess learn more about you, stay connected, what you're up to, what's the best way for people to do that, Bernadette?
Yeah, so probably LinkedIn is a really, really good way to find me because
Yeah.
I'm here in Australia and I'm working for a human agency. So it's an HR consultancy over here. Um, I still have Rosby in the UK and I have Moxie Menopause. So Moxie Menopause is just an app. It's free at the moment for anyone who wants to download, and we will be introducing a premium version, but what you see at the moment is free and it will continue to be free. So if anyone does want to contact me, it's probably the easiest to do that via LinkedIn because
Yeah.
everyone
Bernadette
can come into
Thomas.
one central
Bernadette
place.
Thomas knee Mimo is
Mimo.
you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mimo.
Yeah.
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 But my LinkedIn hashtag is like, sorry, my LinkedIn domain is just Bernadette Thomas.
Okay.
So it's easy to find me.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
and Moxie Menopause is the app that you can download on both Google
Oxymen.
Play
Yeah, and that's
and App Store.
Moxie, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct. And do you know what Moxie actually means?
Okay.
It means to go forth and with perseverance, with challenge, and to have your moxie.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that is amazing. I didn't realize there was that sat
Yeah, it's quite
behind
a
it.
US centric name word,
Okay.
but it is an
Yeah.
English word.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So there
Nice.
you go.
I
That's what it
like
means. That's
that.
why we called it Moxie. Yeah,
Oh,
because it's
that is
all about
brilliant.
women having that. power to get through their menopause journey, feeling confident, feeling like they've got their vigor, and like
Yeah.
really having being educated, having that information at their hands, and it's all about them. And yeah, go on, women.
Yes. Yes, come on. I'm like pumped for my menopause journey now. And also, I can't believe I said the word pumped. Oh, anyway, I definitely need that coffee. Right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bernadette. I have
you,
loved
Kim.
this and could definitely chat for at least another hour.
I know.
After the event and probably next week, once I've slept and things, I will be sharing all of the contact details and things of all the speakers.
Great.
With people. So I guess before we say goodbye and you'll be like dinner and bed, I imagine. Is
I'm
there anything
actually
else
going
that
out.
you
I'm waiting, like
oh,
they're waiting for me because it was a
oh
post like Christmas concert
you.
dinner, and I said, yeah,
Oh, nice.
sure.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
thank
said,
you
"Yeah,
so
fine."
much for being like, I've just got to whiz in and like be on YouTube live stream. And then okay, well, have a wonderful evening. Is there anything
Thank
you
you.
wanted to share before we bid you farewell?
No, I think this is absolutely awesome, Kim, and I love that you're doing this. And I just think that this is such a great idea. So I just wanted to say thank you. I really
Oh,
appreciate and feel hugely grateful that I have been invited to be part of today for
oh.
you. And I just think it's brilliant that you're doing so much for such a wonderful charity.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Bernadette. And it's been a privilege to have you on. So, right, get to your drinks, have a glass of
Thank
fizz
you.
for me, and we'll speak again soon.
Okay,
Take care, see you
bye.
later. Bye.
Bye.